Hi, this is Mike Kent. I'm going to do another set of videos for my ITSE course, Beginning Visual Basic, and in this one we're going to look at subs and we're also going to look at menus. Now I have already downloaded all these examples from Blackboard. I have uncompressed them, I've unzipped them, and deleted the compressed files. So let's go into menus. Once again, you got to drill down until you find that Microsoft Visual Studio solution. You double click on that. That will launch the program. So all I've done in this program is I've taken an earlier example that calculated the cost to do flooring, but instead of having command buttons, it has menus. So my calculate button is now on the file menu. We have an exit button. We have edit, blank the input boxes, reset totals. So let's run the program. Don't forget that on the debug menu, we can start debugging by F5. We can step into subs and functions with F11, and we can step over them with F10. Up to this point, I've been having you use F10. In some of the later examples, we're going to be stepping into some of our subs. So let me start the program. Type in some data. Let's do a room that's 10 by 15, $8.45 a square foot. File menu, calculate. And then if I do a second room, just like the earlier example, file menu, calculate, we get a running total with a grand total. Now I could go to edit, blank the input boxes, those get blanked, edit, reset total, sets the grand total back to 0. I can file, exit, are you sure? Okay, cancel, I'll say okay, it exits the program. So now let's look at how we add menus. To add menus, the first thing we have to do is come over to our toolbox, and under menus and toolbars we have to add a menu strip. So you can see here I've got a menu strip that I named menu strip flooring, and if you look at its name property, that's what I gave it. Otherwise the default would have been menu strip 1. Now I'll also show you in this example I've added a context menu for the length text box. This context menu is a right-click menu. You can make your own custom right-click menus, but I'm going to click back on Menu, Strip Flooring, and all you do is it'll come up empty. You'll click on the first box, type in the name, what you want that menu to be called. Now, whatever you type in here is going to go in the .text property of that menu item. So, like I typed in calculate for this one. So if I click on file menu right up here, I gave the file menu item, I gave it the name of file menu. Now its text property is, let me find it here, is ampersand file. So the shortcut key to activate the file menu is Alt F. Now if I click on calculate, you'll see its text property is ampersand calculate, so the shortcut key for it is Alt C. Now look at the naming scheme I did. Since calculate is on the file menu, I named it calculate file menu. Remember, the file menu here, I named it file menu. So can you guess what I called the exit item? I named it exit file menu, so I know it's on the file menu, and its text property is E ampersand XIT, because X is the shortcut key for exit in almost every Windows program. Now if I wanted to add a third option to the file menu, I would just type here, and that's going to be the text property. After I type it in here, I can call it do stuff. That's going to be the text property, but I have to come down here into do stuff and give it a better name than do stuff tool strip menu item. Okay, I want to give it a better name than that. So actually I am going to delete this item, because I don't want that menu item. Edit menu is the same way. I named the edit menu. The sub items on it I named blank edit menu and reset edit menu, and I set the text properties appropriately. So let's run the program. Remember, you can run the program by hitting start. And now I want to show you that right-click menu, that context menu. So if I put some values into the program, If I just right click on a text box, I'm going to get the default shortcut menu, context menu. If I come up to length right here, all it has is clear, because that's what I put on the context menu. You see it only has clear. So you have to create the context menu, but then you have to assign it to a control or controls. So if I click on the length text box, there is a property under length text box called context menu strip, and I picked my context menu and applied it to that control. Alright, so let's look at some code for this. How do I write the code now? So if I go to File menu and I double click on Calculate, it's going to open up the code window for Calculate, File menu, click. So it's just like a command button at this point. All my code is identical. Here's my local variables. Here's my decimal.parses that does the input. Up here at the top is my grand total variable. This is all exactly the same as the earlier flooring example. The calculations are the same. I'm adding it to my grand total. I'm putting the result on the screen for the user. Okay? Now for the exit menu, it's the same thing. When they click on it, it's just as if it's a command button. The way you get to these to write the code is you double click on them. So the exit menu is going to do a dialog. It's going to do a message box.show into dialog answer. Then I'm going to look to see if they hit the OK button. And if they did hit the OK button, me.close. Okay? Now if I go to Edit Menu, Blank Input Boxes, you see what I do here is all I do is I clear the 3 text boxes. Finally, if I go to Reset Totals, you can see I'm doing 2 things. I'm setting the label grand total to 0, but I'm also taking my module level variable and setting it back to 0. So that my grand total will again start at 0. Okay? Now, my context menu. If I click on this, see, the only thing I'm doing with this context menu is I'm clearing the linked text box because that's the only option that I put on this context menu. So, menus are really straightforward. The book has a good description. Not going to give you much trouble. Remember, what you're seeing on the menu is the text properties. If you want the shortcut key, you put the ampersand, but then you need to come over here and give them reasonable names. I'm going to move on to the next video.